Joining us right now is chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner and Fox News contributor Byron York. Byron, great to see you.
Good morning, Maria.
Remember during the election when Hillary Clinton always used to say 17 agencies said there was collusion between Trump and Russia? Remember that BS? They were, I mean, what do you think these texts tell us?
Well, these texts are important for two reasons: for what they say and for the fact that the Justice Department hid important facts about them from Congress. On what they say, one of the things we've been trying to find out for quite a while is about the Trump dossier, about the allegations in the Trump dossier. How high in the Obama administration did knowledge of those allegations go? And what these texts show is that shortly after the FBI formally began its Trump-Russia counterintelligence investigations, this is in August of 2016, shortly after the investigation gets underway, they are talking, Strzok and Page are talking about briefing Dennis McDonough, who was President Obama's chief of staff. Now, remember, we have heard Democrats be very critical of President Trump for keeping tabs on the FBI investigation. And here, at the very least, it appears that the White House may have been keeping tabs on the FBI investigation.
And we know that the FBI and the DOJ are now officially under investigation for the FISA abuses in the Russia probe as well. That was, of course, made earlier this month by House Intel Committee. DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz announced yesterday he's reviewing what FBI officials and the Justice Department knew when they asked a federal court to let them spy on former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page during the presidential campaign. So, Byron, basically, they created this narrative that there was collusion between Trump and the Russians. Then they the Democratic Party pays for this dossier with all this unverified stuff. They take it to the FISA court. They get a warrant based on that unverified dossier to spy on the Trump campaign, all during the election. It's extraordinary to me that he actually still won. I mean, it is.
And when you hear the Inspector General or when you hear Republicans talking about investigating FISA abuse, they're really investigating the dossier. If you look at the charging, if you look at the description of how the Inspector General is going to investigate, it's about this dossier. How did they get it? What was the role of this former British spy, Christopher Steele, in doing it? Why did they agree to pay Christopher Steele to work on this at the same time Steele was being paid by the Clinton campaign? And then finally, how did they use it in the FISA warrant application? But one last thing about the Justice Department not being open about this. On these Strzok Page texts, they sent a lot of these texts to Congress, but a lot of them, parts of them were redacted. They were blacked out. And the FBI said, look, these two people were having an affair. There's a lot of personal information in the text. We're going to cover that up. You don't need to see that. And Congress said, fine, we are not investigating their relationship. But what they have now discovered is that the FBI and the Justice Department also covered up important facts like Dennis McDonough's name. So they learned that, wow, there's an Obama White House official involved here, and that had been previously redacted.
That's absolutely right. Wait, and they also redacted the texts about wanting to go to a party with the FISA judge. Let's not forget that. Judge Contreras. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Byron, one of the things the other side has been good at is muddying the waters, making it complicated so people can't grasp it in a tweet, you might say. Where does this go from here? Are we going to get a special prosecutor? Is Sessions going to step up to the plate and make sure justice is done here? A lot of revelations. What happens next? What's the next step?
Well, the first thing that's going to happen probably will be the release of this Inspector General's report that you've heard about. And it's not an investigation into the Trump-Russia investigation, but it is an investigation into how Andrew McCabe, James Comey, the FBI handled the Hillary Clinton investigation. And boy, we know there's plenty of questions about what they did there. So look for that to come out basically at the same time as James Comey's national book tour.
Just a coincidence.
You will find out about that. This new Inspector General investigation just announced into the dossier and the handling of the dossier. You know what happens with those. They take a long time. It will eventually come out, but not for probably at least a year.
Byron,
so
I want to add to that. The Inspector General has limited power to compel the testimony from people who no longer work within the government, like Andrew McCabe.
And Jim Comey.
and Jim Comey. So do you think that we still get a special counsel on this?
Yeah, you have given the Trey Gowdy argument in favor of a special counsel because look at all the people involved. They can only investigate people who are employees of the Justice Department. James Comey is no longer an employee, neither is Andrew McCabe. Christopher Steele never was. Right. What about Fusion GPS? All these people who can't be investigated. And that is the strongest argument for a special counsel. But I have to say, I haven't seen any indication right now that that's going to happen.
What's Sessions' hang-up on this?
Right.
Well, there are a lot of Republicans who are just opposed philosophically to the idea of special counsels. They believe, and they're correct, that it results in mission creep. They go forever. They go all over the place. I mean, we're seeing that in the Mueller campaign.
Yeah,
look at some of the charges against Manafort.
But the reason this one's gone off the track, the current one, is because the parameters were not there. If you set specific parameters in what you can and cannot do and you appoint that special counsel, you can prevent these abuses. But the number two in the Justice Department didn't do that, which is why Mueller's going all over the place.
Well, that's right. But let me just add to that, because the initial mandate here, Byron, was that Bob Mueller looks at collusion with the Trump campaign or collusion between Trump and Russia. So why is this investigation still going on? If we know that this is a whole bunch of nothing and that they created this whole narrative to keep Donald Trump out of the White House, why is Robert Mueller continuing this charade?
Because the guardrails were not put in. They said it, but they didn't make it in a specific way. This is what you can and cannot do.
So, in other words, now he can go into obstruction of justice. He can go wherever he wants.
He can investigate us if he wants.
Right.
We should always be very careful in talking about Mueller because there's a lot of stuff we don't know. But on the collusion front, look at this. He has charged several people who were very high in the Trump campaign, Paul Manafort, Michael Flynn, Richard Gates, people who, if there had been a scheme to conspire with the Russians, they would have been involved. They would have known about it. And yet they've been charged with criminal acts, none of which involved any collusion.
Exactly.
So that's a good reason for us to believe that maybe it's not going to happen. And as far as obstruction is concerned, we know he is investigating that. But we also know one other thing. As far as President Trump personally is concerned, he's the president. He's not going to be charged with a crime and dragged into a courtroom. If anything happens, it would be the political process of impeachment. And all these legal arguments we hear about, they're not really going to be as important as the political argument of President Trump.
Real quick, Byron, we got to jump, but do you think anybody goes to jail over the massive abuse of power?
Anybody in the FBI would be very, very unlikely. I think people on Capitol Hill want to expose this. They want to find out what happened. I don't think they want to send anybody behind bars. They want to find out what happened right now.
All right, Byron, we'll leave it there. Good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Maria.
Byron York joining us there.